So, for those who couldn't make it today, welcome. And we're going to be here talking about our little coach's corner this morning about authenticity. And it's a word that is used, maybe overused in some ways. But for us as coaches, as teachers, as guides in our beautiful practices, that's what it's all about. I find myself talking about it a lot, especially when I'm teaching sound healing, because I believe sound takes us back to our authentic vibration. And the most important thing for us as coaches is to be able to explain what authenticity means to us, but also explore what authenticity means to our clients because it might be different. I could stand here and talk about my authentic vibration, but if I'm speaking to a client who doesn't understand vibrational healing or sound therapy, they'll be like, "What are you talking about?" Right? But so that's really the first step in how do we coach our clients to a place of authenticity. But that's not even really the first step. The first step is for us to understand ourselves authentically, right? So, real quick, I just want to. No, I don't want to put anybody on the spot yet. I'll take the lead in this. I was going to ask everybody to explain their version of authenticity, but we'll do that later because I think sometimes I put people on the spot without giving them any clues. So I'm going to come back to it later. Be ready. So one of the things I like to. There's this quote. That's been changed a little bit. I think it was originally put out by Oprah, but the question is, do you have the courage to look inside of yourself to see who you really are? Do you have the courage to look inside of yourself to see who you really are? And then are you strong enough to own it? Are you strong enough to own it? One of the things I generally teach in the session is the whole practice of that karmic realization that who I am today is the result of who I have been. The good, the bad, and the in between. Every choice, every place, every person, everything I've ever done has made me who I am today. And it takes a little bit of work to own that truth because so many times we look back in the past and say, well, I wish that didn't happen, or I wish I wouldn't have made that choice, or that was wrong. But it happened, right? We can't go back and change it. I wish we could. I don't even wish we could because if I went back and changed it, I wouldn't be here today, or I'd be teaching or coaching from a different perspective. So I have to own it. So that takes strength. And that's the first step to guiding our clients into that place of authenticity is to have to own that truth. And that could take, I don't know, that could take a long time to get people to own that truth because people want to deny the past or deny or put us into that space of blame. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a little bit. But it's important for coaches, for us as coaches and teachers, to use the same tools and the same practices and the same principles in our own life that we would use to coach our clients. Because if we're not coaching from a place of authenticity, it's not going to come across. It's going to be, huh. So, in order to coach people to authenticity, we actually have to do it ourselves. Shocking, right? Who knew we had to walk the walk and talk the talk? Well, that's what we teach. So, for me, from my perspective of who I was and who I am now, I think compared to who I used to be, I'm pretty open. I Heck, I wrote a book about myself. I talk about myself all the time in a fairly reserved way. I don't talk about all the dirty details or all the things that aren't necessary. But overall, I'm fairly open. I talk about my struggles with grief. I talk about the trauma that I experienced from my past. I talk about my own transformation, about who I was and who I am now. But I don't share every aspect of my life. And we go back to that conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about having those boundaries, about how much am I wanting to share or how much is necessary for me to share to get across to my clients. So I have boundaries, of course, but when we talk about being authentic, we have to ask ourselves, what am I as a coach still scared to share about myself? What am I afraid to let out of my box? And that fear is a practice of opening ourselves up to move into that space of being willing to share. So what am I afraid of opening myself up to? And that doesn't even mean I have to talk about it, but what am I afraid of owning? Owning that truth of who I am today and recognizing that there might still be some things buried in that box that I still need to open up. So, authenticity, I believe, is a practice. And again, I'll stand in front of a group of people and I'll talk about where I am and how I put myself in this bubble and I have these boundaries about who I'm going to let in. And every time somebody pushes that button and breaks in, that's a me thing, not a them thing. So I'm allowing that person in because I'm reacting to them in a certain way. But I've gotten a lot better at it. I'm not so reactionary. Not so um, I'm not so easy to push my buttons anymore because I've started to own my truth. It's like that's you and this is me. But am I 100% there? No. Maybe 75, maybe 80. Some days better than others. So because we are focused on living authentically ourselves, then we can start giving our clients the permission to do it as well. Be the inspiration. But if I'm holding back and if I'm not the most effective, how can I inspire others? How can I inspire others to be real if I'm not real myself? If we as coaches aren't real, if we're just following this script, then we're not real. That's not authenticity, right? So again, it's difficult to determine where we draw the line, and I can't tell you where you draw the line about how much about of yourself you're willing to share. That's a you thing. But being authentic, again, isn't about all the dirty details of our life. It's about sharing our truth, but only as much as necessary to get across to that client. And every client's different. But I can talk about my transformation without every little detail and every mistake I made, right? But that transformation can inspire others. That transformation has inspired others. Um, I can say something like, I had to let go of a lot of things in my life in order to make room for the joy that's waiting for me in the future. I had to let go of so much baggage in order to make space for all the wonders that lie ahead. And that is a simple truth. That's authentic. I can talk about my journey and remind my clients that every experience I've had has brought me to this point, right here, right now. And then I can say something like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to do at this point in my life. But you know what? I had to do all those other things in order to be able to do this thing. So I can go back and say, I was doing a job that I shouldn't have been doing, but I had to do it to be who I am. The good, the bad, and the in between, everything has made me who I am. And if I accept that truth, that makes me more authentic. So the first step in authenticity has to be just that acceptance. Acceptance. How many times have we sat in a workshop and talked about acceptance? Radical acceptance, that acceptance of everything. It's owning that truth. And once we own that truth, it gives you that opportunity to be authentic. But acceptance doesn't stop there. We have to dig deep into it and recognize there might be some aspects to my life or to the people in my life that I haven't accepted yet. So, a big thing that keeps me motivated, a big thing that keeps me going forward is that I know my transformation's not done. I know that there's still so much more to unpack and so much more to discover. And that makes me a better coach because I keep looking deeper inside. And I can talk from that place of experience that says, you know what, this is a never ending journey that we keep peeling back the layers of stuff to get back into that authentic self, to reconnect with that light. But what is it doing? It's having me look inside instead of outside. The answers are here, not there. Although there are people who inspire me, there are books that I read that move me. There are TED Talks that I can just like eat all day long. There are other coaches that I love to listen to. There are people who are standing in front of the people that I teach and teach from their perspective, and it moves me to keep digging deeper. But guiding myself to be a better coach is recognize that I need to keep guiding myself to that, to ask myself exactly what I'm asking my clients to do, to reflect on their relationships with others and the various things in our lives that we struggle with, and to own the truth. So when we're looking at something like our relationships, how do we own the truth of the relationship fact that our relationship with others, whether it's our family or our friends or our partner, whether it's our relationship with our weight or our money or our job or the place that we live, they're mirror images of who we are, of the relationship that we have with ourselves. And when I recognize that truth, then it helps me heal because we have to heal ourselves first. There's no shortcut to that. It's a constant practice. And when we start digging into all the unresolved traumas that we carry from, who knows what it is, a kid that was picking on us when we were a kid, um, a parent who maybe thought they were doing the right thing, but made us feel small or made us feel unworthy, or the media that says we have to look or feel or think a certain way. Those things cause trauma. And it's a difficult discussion sometimes to sit across from somebody who you talk about suffering and they're like, well, when I look around in the world, I have it pretty good. So I don't want to say I'm suffering, but you know what? We all suffer in different ways and we don't want to minimize that. So own that truth and understand that it's a process, that we need to dig deep into the process to be more authentic, to be more true. Instead of being that person that everybody expects us to be the person that we are. And once we do that, life gets easier. So it's a great coaching piece to be able to say all the time that I'm working on it, that I've gotten better, but I'm definitely not there. I'm working on it. And that's the beautiful thing. That can inspire people to say, wow, if you're still working on it and you look like you've got it all together, then okay, then it gives me permission to do. And that's empowering, right? So and then the truth is, we also have to own another piece, that a lot of our life, we have worn a different mask. And Lillian, you have something you want to add? Oh, I saw you raise your hand. Sorry.
I was clapping.
Oh,
Sorry, I
okay.
don't do those
I didn't see the difference between that little yellow hand and the
very.
double hit.
That's a
Good.
great point to say when you show how much you're still learning and suffering. That's so authentic and it inspires other people to, I just like that. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's great. Um, so once you own that piece about being authentic and looking at, the way I responded to somebody from my past, maybe it was my stepfather, and understanding that the way I reacted to him is a reflection of myself. Maybe I wasn't as comfortable with who I am at that point, and the things that he did that bothered me was the truth that it was bothering myself. So it's really interesting to dig into that space. And the other thing is to understand that a lot of my life and a lot of all of us in different parts of our life, and even currently, we wear a mask to make ourselves appear a certain way, right? So, sometimes it could be that we wear a mask because we have this fear of rejection, or we walk into a room of people that we don't know and we try to fit in because we feel like we want to fit in. Um, Sometimes we're holding on to that habit of trying to fit in because we tried to do that when we were kids and we were kind of misfits, right? And I don't know if that's the right word, but we didn't really fit in with the group we were in. Um, or maybe we're working in a job we don't love, but we still pretend that we do, right? Those little masks that we tend to wear. My mask of choice had always been to pretend and to recognize I had this unique ability to appear as if I had it all together. I could work in a job that I didn't love and people thought I loved it because that's what I thought I needed to do, and that was my mask. I could look like I was successful even though deep down inside I was suffering because I wasn't in a place I wanted to be. When I was a teenager, um, I pretended that I wasn't who I was. I pretended that my sexuality wasn't what it was because I wanted to fit in with these different groups. So that was a mask that I wore. So there's nothing, we shouldn't be ashamed of that because it was our way of coping at the time, or it might be our way of coping in the moment. But when we recognize that that's a me thing and it has nothing to do with anybody else, and there are times in our life when we don't want to be that um, you know, authoritarian or telling this is I got to get my point across. We need to pick our battles, right? There are some places we don't want to go and state our politics or state our sexuality or whatever it is. But recognize that might not be a mask. That's more of a protective thing. But a lot of times we do wear masks, so when we recognize that that's part of our being, then that's authentic. I recognize that that's true. And then next piece that I love to coach my clients to, and we all should, is the truth that we're enough. That all those voices in my head, all those voices from my past or voices even in my present that are telling me that I'm not good enough or smart enough or skinny enough or talented enough, it's just noise. It's just noise. The truth is that we can and we know how to get to that place of stillness inside. that authentic voice and resonance that we have that says, you know what, you are enough. People might not understand you, but you're enough. I love to talk about how when we look at all the universe and recognize that there is no one in all of the universe who has all the experiences that you do, authentically, nobody's experienced all the places you've been, all the people you've met, lessons you've learned, all the mistakes you've made. Nobody in this universe has done that. So as we're tending to strive for perfection in this world, that perfection might be overrated, but wait, we are perfect. We're the perfect versions of ourselves. And when we recognize that nobody else is exactly like me, then why am I comparing myself to others? Just be me and recognize that there is a reason I'm here. The universe put me here for a reason, or God, or whatever it is your belief is. You're here for a reason and a purpose. And when you can say that to your clients and see their reaction and recognize sometimes there's a resistance because of the message that keeps playing in their head, how do we coach our clients to recognize that? Is we keep repeating it. Every time I have a session, is like, let's come back into the reality. Stop comparing yourself to others. See yourself as you are and look in the mirror and says, you know what? I am here for a reason. Or look in the mirror and say, I am special and unique or whole and complete. And then recognize how you respond when you say those things to yourself. And after a while, you start to believe it. And that's such an amazing piece when you get to that place where your clients can sit across from you and say, okay, at first I thought that was corny, or at first that was really difficult, but now it's getting easier and easier. And you know what? I'm starting to believe it. And when you start to believe it, then you start to change the record in the mind that keeps playing, that was playing the same old song over and over again. You start listening to that inner voice of wisdom instead of that ego that was trying to tell you something else, right? And then we start finding the beauty and the talent and the intelligence and the resiliency and the grace that I promise every single client I'm working with is there. It's alive and it's well in each and every one of us. We've just covered it up with stuff. So when we can move into that space of listening to the truth, that we are whole and complete, that we are perfect in our own way, that's empowering people to say, you know what, if I am that special, then maybe I should go out and talk about it. Or as I talk about a lot in sound, is like, let's let that voice be heard, whether it's through a guided meditation, whether it's through a conversation, whether it's through a song or a singing bowl or a yoga nidra class or whatever it is, let your voice be heard. Then another beautiful piece of coaching, thank you, is going into that space where we understand the truth. And it's another deep lesson that I struggled with in my life, but to understand that everybody who comes into our life is there to teach us something. And when we can shift that perspective to say, I see you as a teacher, instead of somebody I should hate or be angry about or disagree with, I see you, my teacher. That's a Thich Nhat Hanh thing. I see you, my teacher. And what am I going to learn from you? What are you going to teach me? And when we can understand that everybody's here to teach us at something at some point in our life, then we can accept the fact that everybody's different and that's that person's opinion. That person has their own stuff. I don't know what made people believe what they believe or do what they do. And again, I can move into that space where if I see somebody that I disagree with wholeheartedly, I can do all I can to say, I see you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I'm going to do all I can to protect myself and the people I love from you, but you do you and I'll do me. And that moves me out of that space of hate or anger or blame. It gives me that power. And understand that if that's the truth, if I believe that when we find that truth and see that there is a lesson, even in our difficult relationships, even in those struggles that I might have had with somebody from my past, there are lessons there. And that leads me back to understand that that made me who I am. That person that I disagreed with, or that person who hurt me or damaged me, or whatever it is from my past or caused trauma, has made me who I am. What am I going to do with that? How can I learn and how can I leverage that to shift the energy from a negative thing to a positive thing? Shift it from a darkness that I'm carrying inside to a light. Because then I can share and teach from that place of transformation where I transform that darkness into light. And they see that when we start moving into that space where it went from a negative to a light, a darkness to a light, then it almost moves us into a space where there's nothing that needs to be forgiven. I don't need to go back and forgive that person. I can thank them for letting me see the light. That's so enlightening. That's so uplifting, because in the end, everything we encounter in our life is a gift. We might not understand it's a gift at the time, but it's a gift, because this gift is what keeps us growing and learning and eventually inspiring others, because I made it through that journey, right? And then we go back to the solid foundation of who we are. We are beings of service. We are meant to be of service to each other. I am not here to conquer or own or be better than anybody else. My truth and my belief is that we're all here to help each other in some way or another. I might not know how I'm going to help you, but I'm here to be of service to you, right? And I hope that by sharing this truth, I hope that by sharing as much of myself as I possibly can, it opens up somebody else's path. Maybe it inspires them to dig deeper, to find an open and honest and authentic life for themselves. I want to empower people to say, if you have that much of a light inside of you, then I must have that much of a light inside of me. So how do I get there? And that's where we can coach our clients to dig deeper and dig deeper. It takes courage. It takes practice. To go from a pretty dark place, it takes difficult questions. To get into that light isn't easy. I could talk about it all day long, but it's a process. It starts with being self-aware. It starts with self-acceptance. And eventually we find that place of self-love. And that self-love, we find patience, we forgive ourselves, and we open ourselves to walk in our light. It's not easy, but when we start walking through that forest and we start to have that light guiding us in the right direction, then we start finding the joy and the meaning in our life, and that gives us our purpose, and we're authentically present, right? The light on the other side of the darkness is there. And along the journey, we find peace and authenticity. We find out what we have at our core and recognize that we are worthy, that we are strong, that we discover our power and our peace, and that lives within each and every one of us. So when we can do that, there's such freedom. So we have to have that courage to do it ourselves, and then find the words or the practice or the process from which we can work with others to help them fall in love with themselves again, or maybe for the first time. So standing in that truth, being in that light, that's what it's all about, right? And so that's my piece on authenticity. And that's how I can, how do I coach my clients to authenticity? I talk about how my journey has led me there, right? So what do you guys got to say about that? Lillian?
Hate to go, but I'm gonna have to leave in a minute. How
Okay.
can you go after that, right, ladies? Was that just, I'm like, what, did I just go to a church? 10 years of what I wanted to, that was beautiful. It was right from your heart, Bill. Thank you.
For sure.
That was, that was really, really, as I always tell you, I love when we can hear from you more. And this coach's corner, today's was perfect timing. I think working with a couple clients right now, finding them to come into, one of the questions I try to ask, because I try to ask myself this all the time, what good fortune am I in awe of in my life? Like I bring it back to that, because sometimes we can get caught up in whether they're, in the victim role or this didn't work out, but just asking some really good questions. And it also taps into your own. Sometimes I have to go back to my journal and write down, like, I am in awe of some good fortune recently, and I'm going to write it down. And the reason I say it like that, for me, I just have to prompt myself sometime, whether it's in my journal or in my coaching questions. And another thing that I love to use is like, how are you going to make it matter? So whatever we're talking about, and then it's such a reflection, like you said, it ends up kind of being a mirror too. I'm like, well, how am I making this matter? I'm talking to them about how can we make this matter, all of this, whatever situation or issue or strategies that we're working on. and I get off the phone. That's what I love about coaching so much, because this how just taps into so much of our continued healing and learning. And there's always so much more. And Bill, I don't even want to speak after you, because you just said it so eloquently and beautifully. But you just, again, you nailed it again today. That was a really beautiful talk. And I just am so happy to be in this space with you guys. And I feel bad that I have to leave
No, don't
and
feel
just
bad.
talk, but I'm going to come back and listen to the recording. And I'm curious to see how the rest of the coaches are
Awesome.
helping with their clients and the authenticity of it. But that was great. Thank you so much for sharing. And
Well,
I
thank
can't
you.
wait. Hi, Heather.
Hi,
I
Heather.
miss you, Heather. But and I'll promise I'll come back and listen to the recording, because I know all of you guys have such beautiful things to share too.
Awesome.
But
Thank you.
what an authentic group that showed up today.
Yay. All right, go about, say hi
Bye,
to your
guys.
hubby.
Okay if I go next?
Matter.
See you
I can
later,
listen.
Lillian. Is it okay if I go next, Bill? Because I
Yes,
need to go
please
as
do.
well. So is that all right? So yeah, I just want to say exactly the same as Lillian. That was like so powerful. I went through so many emotions on that talk. It was unbelievable. So when you first started talking about it, I felt fear, because I was thinking, oh, I've got to say what I think. And I went back to where I began. Does that make sense? I went back to where I began, when I was that place a long time ago, which was a bad, low place. And that imposter syndrome and everything all came over me again while I was sitting thinking. And then I sat with it a bit and was thinking, why am I feeling like this? What's making me feel like this? And then the more you talked and the more you just said the journey, which was very similar to my journey, I calmed down, and then I sat with it. Then I started feeling really excited, then really motivated, then full of love and full of just like ready to run and tell everybody how great mindfulness is and tell my story and share my story and everything else. And yeah, it just completely inspired me, because mine has been a massive journey as well, where I literally just had so much self-doubt and so much and I'm talking about this has gone on years and years from a childhood, from experiences within the family, where I always felt as though I had to be suppressed and I couldn't enjoy celebrating anything, because my sister was always quite jealous and quite, would always put me down, sort of be like, oh, you can't be better than me, you can't be whatever. So I'd be like, okay, so I'd shrink back again. And I think that's given me real imposter syndrome over the years that I've really had to work through. And the great thing is the more that you talked and the more you were talking about how you change and how you go on this journey, the more I was thinking, yeah, I'm there now. I can say this, and I can be open, and I can feel, and I can think I'm okay. You know what I mean? And I can do this. And so that for me was so, so inspiring. Yeah, I felt like I was at church, and it felt even better than that. Just wonderful.
Awesome.
Perfect
Thank you
word.
for sharing. Praise. Love it. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I've talked about it before, that imposter syndrome. It does creep in often when I'm standing in front of a group of people talking. Is like, who am I talking to? What gives me the right to stand in front of all these people and share this with me? But then I have these conversations afterwards that, like, I'm so glad you told that. It really related to me. I had this gentleman, we did a sound healing training this past weekend, and there were 10 people in it. And this one gentleman who I thought was kind of not really there, his wife wanted him to come with him, and he seemed like he was checked out. So at the end of the training yesterday, he came and he grabbed my arm right here, and he said, I was hanging on every word that you said through the whole weekend. It really moved me to change my life. And I was like, I wouldn't have known that by your body language or by the energy you were putting out. But then he's just like, you've really inspired me to dig deeper into my own practice. And so those moments show, okay, I'm not an imposter. And it gives me that motivation to keep moving forward. And if not you, who, right? That's the question I always say. If not you, who? Who's going to stand in front of these people that chose to show up here today and share your truth and share your authenticity? And I'm not going to connect with every single person. And I got out of that space where I think I should be standing in front of thousands of people talking. No, the ones who need it are ready for it at that moment, right? And so, yeah, the imposter thing, don't feel bad when it comes up, but just trust yourself and understand that your story, whenever you have to share, is meant to be heard. And that's why you're here, right? Awesome. Thank you. All right, Heather, you got anything to share on authenticity?
Sure. That was also beautiful. I've enjoyed listening to everybody. um, yeah, I was gonna share just kind of something that you'd said made me think of it of just how you could show up at work and seem like, oh, I love this job and I'm great at it or whatever. And I think sometimes when I'm, especially if we're working with people who want to be coaches or teachers, they feel like they need to be a certain way to be that coach or that teacher. They maybe look at other people that they like. And one thing I share with them that I share with myself is like, yeah, you could like become that person, but then you're not going to feel right. It's going to feel weird. Like, it's like, in high school, like you could fit in enough to be somewhere and then you don't really have a good time because you're not being yourself. And so if you're authentic, you probably won't attract the same people that whoever you think is cool is attracting. You're going to attract other people, but it's going to feel better. You're going to be yourself while you're there. Or in life, if it's not a teaching thing, just if you're your authentic self, you're going to attract friends that you actually want to be around rather than, oh, I have all these friends, but I go and now I don't really like hanging out with them. And so I think it's scary too, because it could mean you're going to lose some people as you become your authentic self. Some of the people that were your friends are not going to want to hang out with you anymore, or that maybe were your students. I know I lost some students once I started showing up more authentically. I could just see my mailing list dropping, and then I was, oh, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. Like the people that left, totally. I was like, yep, that checks. But it didn't really matter because the people who I got to be authentic, and then new people come along, and then they like it better. I like it better. Everything feels better. So I think it can be scary. And I think acknowledging that part when you're like, okay, I'm going to be out here, and probably people will drop away. And then it's like, oh no, they'll drop away before the new people show up usually.
Right.
So I think just acknowledging that. And then the other thing, which you said as well, is just making sure sometimes it's a safety thing with why the person isn't being their full authentic self. And so if they don't feel safe or aren't safe, then maybe they can't yet, and they have to change their environment or their people first before they can really be authentic. So just, yeah, as we're working with people, knowing where are they at and can they really be authentic, because it's like great for us to be like, oh yeah, just be yourself, but like maybe they can't for safety reasons. So I think it's, yeah, I mean, we all like look at each person as an individual and on their own journey, and we're all in different spaces, but that's my 2 cents.
No, love it.
So
No, it's good. It's important to remember, you know, if a client comes and sits with me and tells me they hate their job, but they're making a certain amount of money and it's able to support their family and blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't say, well, quit your job. You hate your job, just quit it. But then, okay, I can't pay your rent and I'm not going to take care of your kids, right? So you don't quit your job on the spot, but don't think you don't have the opportunity to explore other options, and maybe don't just focus on the job and look at the rest of your life, right? So but you're right, make sure yeah, coaching to authenticity doesn't mean you have to change your life just like that.
I
Awesome,
just
thank you.
as well, I think sort of finding your soul client is so important now, and I think that's where my mindset has changed greatly on this in the last few months. Is that actually, if they aren't your soul client who really gets you and sees you for what you are, then it probably isn't ever going to work, is it? Because there's always going to be some kind of barrier there. You know what I mean? Whereas people who are your soul client will work with you and want to work with you. So, and I'd rather have fewer soul clients.
Good.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, Courtney, do you have anything to add? Hello there.
Get off mute. Yeah, so this is a huge thing, and I know that I've struggled with it most of my life. Like a lot of points that you had, like your talk was just amazing, like everyone else said too. But it's harder the older you get, because as you grow up, so many different factors that are coming at you. You got school, you got religion, your parents, like everything So you're getting all these outside factors like and thrown at you, and it's hard to really know who you are sometimes. So like growing up as an adult, to like go back and try to figure it out sometimes. So I think maybe a good thing too would be to start kids early and just not force things on them, I guess. I know it's easier said than done, but I just know it's a lot harder to go back later in life and try to figure it out sometimes. A lot of digging.
Yeah. Yes, I think I've seen a shift in the way parents raise their kids now compared to when I was a kid, that there's a lot more awareness. There's a lot more
Mhm.
awareness and acceptance, right? It seems like a generation ago that the parent was trying to make their kid fit into this mold of who they think they should be. And these are the steps you need to do to make your son an athlete or make your daughter a ballerina, or those things that the parent thinks is the right thing for them. Where it seems like, and not in all instances, it just seems like there's more acceptance now of letting people be who they are. And yeah, so it's a big piece if you have that opportunity to start with kids when they're younger, for sure. But then I also coach a lot of times is it's never too late. It's never too late. And one of the big pieces that I find down here when I was strictly doing coaches is I had people move down to Florida. Of course, people move down here to retire and they say, I want to be on the beach the rest of my life sipping a pina colada, right? This is my job. That's what I want to do the rest of my life because I worked hard. But then they get down here after 3 or 4 months and it's like, is this all there is? Like, okay, this isn't, I don't want to drink a pina colada every day. And sitting on the beach kind of as much lovely as it is, it's getting a little old. So they come to be coached and like, well, I raised my kids, I did my job. What is next, right? Do I just wait? Do I just wait for the light to go out? It's like, no, there's always a purpose and a passion. And when you start looking deep inside to that authentic vibrations, paying attention to the things that warm your heart or make you feel good, lean into that and say that's the message that says, okay, maybe you should volunteer, or maybe you could work in nature, or maybe you could, get a little job somewhere or work with people, whatever it is, and recognize that authentically there's still more. There's always more, and it's never too late, right, to continue and dig deep. So yeah. So there's some real good practices that we can focus on, and some things that we need to focus on as coaches is to always focus on integrity. The integrity piece is huge because if you're pretending to be somebody you're not, and your clients see the real you, then they're going to lose all faith. So integrity comes with consistency through our actions and our words and the way we speak to everyone all the time. But self-awareness reduces the opportunities for the negative emotions to take over. It moves us into a space when we're aware of how we respond to certain things. Then we can choose to make a different choice, maybe. So self-awareness is key. But I think more than anything, for us as coaches, is to move into that space of authentic listening, to truly listen and listen deeply. Because I can't tell you how many times a client comes to me with one issue and we sit and talk and realize that that wasn't what they really wanted to focus on. And then we start digging deeper and reading between the lines. And it wouldn't happen if I wasn't authentically present and open to hear. But then the most important thing I think is the energy, feeling the energy that your clients are putting towards you and the energy that you're putting out, or the energy of the people in your life, and recognizing that we're not going to resonate with everyone in the world. And that's the truth, that there are some people that we're not on the same wavelength with, or this, we don't tune into the same radio station, and say that's okay. There's plenty of other radio stations out there. So energy is everything. And as most of us as coaches in our field, and most everybody that's been through one of our programs or another gets the energy thing, whether it's the energy of sound or Reiki or Nidra or meditation or whatever it is, we get the energy thing and recognize that energy is really important. So yeah, I think I've run out of things to talk about. I
I
let it
did.
all out. All
Sorry,
right,
is it all
Claire.
right? Thank you.
Thank you for
Great
joining and
session.
sticking with us.
Oh,
And
thank you. Great session. Loved it.
we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye. All right. Anything else you guys want to add? Excellent.
No, just this was good timing though. Like this was really good.
Awesome.
I liked it.
Okay. All right, you guys. I'm gonna
Well,
log off.
bye.
Okay, you all good? Heather, I want to. I'm gonna message you later. I need to talk to you about some stuff in Los Angeles that we have coming up
Okay.
next year.
I'm around. So
Okay.
yeah, we can chat.
All right,
Okay.
very good. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.